I stood on the sidewalk outside the Sterling Tower, holding a bouquet of roses that suddenly felt like they weighed 100 pounds. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the executive level, I could see my husband Bradley raising a champagne glass. He wasn't alone. Rachel, his executive assistant, stood so close to him that their shoulders touched. She was laughing at something he said, her hand resting on his arm in a way that made my chest tighten. I watched as Bradley reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small box wrapped in silver paper. My feet wouldn't move. I couldn't look away. Rachel opened the box, and even from the street I could see her face light up. She pulled out a diamond bracelet and held it up to the light. It sparkled like stars. I recognized it immediately. That was the bracelet from Cartier that I'd admired 3 months ago when we'd walked past the store. Bradley had laughed and said we needed to be practical with our money right now. The company had expenses. We couldn't be frivolous. But apparently we could be frivolous for Rachel. She threw her arms around his neck. He hugged her back, his hands spanning her waist. Then he kissed her. Not a friendly peck. Not a congratulatory gesture. A real kiss. The kind of kiss that told a story of familiarity and intimacy and 1,000 other kisses that came before it. The roses slipped from my fingers and scattered across the concrete. A woman walking her dog stopped and asked if I was okay. I couldn't answer. I couldn't breathe. Today was our 7th wedding anniversary. I'd left work early to surprise Bradley with his favorite flowers and a reservation at the restaurant where he'd proposed. I'd worn the dress he always said he loved. I'd spent an hour getting ready, excited to celebrate 7 years of marriage. 7 years of what, exactly? I picked up the roses with shaking hands. My phone buzzed in my purse. A text from Bradley, stuck in meetings all evening. Don't wait up. Love you. Love you. I looked back up at the window. He was pouring more champagne. Rachel was showing the bracelet to someone else who had entered the room. Bradley's hand was on the small of her back, possessive and casual at the same time. How long had this been going on? How many nights had he come home late, smelling like cologne and lies? How many business trips weren't really business? How many times had I believed him when he said Rachel was just a valuable employee, nothing more? A man in a suit rushed past me into the building, jarring my shoulder. The pain snapped me back to reality. I couldn't stand here forever, watching my marriage crumble through a window like some horrible movie I couldn't turn off. I walked back to my car in a daze. The roses went into the passenger seat. I drove home on autopilot, barely remembering the route. Our house looked the same as it always did. Beautiful. Expensive. Empty of anything real. Inside, everything was exactly as I'd left it. The anniversary card I'd written to Bradley sat on the kitchen counter, sealed and ready. I'd spent 30 minutes choosing my words carefully, telling him how grateful I was for our life together, how much I loved him, how I looked forward to spending the rest of my life by his side. I picked up the card and tore it in half. Then in quarters. Then into pieces so small they looked like confetti. They scattered across the marble counter like snow. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Bradley, meeting running even later than expected. Order yourself something nice for dinner. Put it on the card. The card. Always the card. His money. His decisions. His control. I'd given up my job as a teacher when we got married because Bradley said his wife didn't need to work. He wanted me available for company events, for entertaining clients, for being the perfect accessory to his success. I'd agreed because I loved him and wanted to support his dreams. When had I stopped having dreams of my own? I walked through our house, really looking at it for the first time in months. Everything was expensive and cold. The furniture Bradley had chosen. The art his decorator had selected. The color scheme some designer had insisted was sophisticated. Where was I in any of this? What piece of this perfect showcase actually belonged to me? In the bedroom, I opened Bradley's closet. His suits hung in neat rows, organized by color and season. Everything about Bradley was organized and controlled. He liked order. He liked things his way. He liked being in charge. I'd thought that made him strong. Now I wondered if it just made him selfish. On the top shelf, pushed behind a stack of sweaters, I spotted something that didn't belong. A shoebox. Not a designer brand, just a plain brown box that looked out of place among all the luxury items. I pulled it down and opened it. Inside were receipts. Dozens of them. Hotels. Restaurants. Jewelry stores. Flower shops. All dated over the past 2 years. All for amounts that would have made me feel guilty for spending. Bradley had told me just last month that we needed to cut back on household expenses because the company was going through a tight period. But he'd spent $8,000 at Cartier 2 weeks ago. The date on the receipt was the same day Rachel had started wearing a new necklace that she'd said was a gift from her sister. Her sister. Right. I sat on the floor of the closet, surrounded by evidence of my husband's lies, and waited to cry. The tears didn't come. Instead, I felt something else. Something cold and clear and sharp. Anger. Not the hot, explosive kind. The calculating kind. The kind that makes you think clearly instead of emotionally. Bradley thought I was stupid. He thought I'd never question him, never look deeper, never challenge the story he was selling. He thought I'd stay in this beautiful house, spending his money on groceries and accepting whatever crumbs of attention he threw my way. He was wrong. I put the receipts back in the box and returned it to its hiding place. Everything needed to look exactly as it had before. Bradley couldn't know that I knew. Not yet. I went downstairs and ordered dinner from his favorite steakhouse. The most expensive items on the menu. I charged it to his card just like he'd suggested. Then I opened a bottle of wine from his private collection, the one he'd been saving for a special occasion. This was a special occasion. Today was the day I stopped being Bradley's convenient wife and started being something he didn't see coming. I pulled out my laptop and started searching. Divorce lawyers. Private investigators. Women's support groups. I bookmarked everything and cleared my history. My phone rang. Bradley's face appeared on the screen, the photo from our wedding day. He looked so happy in that picture. So did I. We'd been different people then. Or maybe I'd just been blind. I answered. Hey. Hey beautiful. Look, I'm really sorry about tonight. This deal is taking longer than expected to close. Rain check on dinner? In the background I could hear Rachel's laugh. High and bright and victorious. Of course, I said, keeping my voice light. Don't work too hard. You're the best. This is why I married you. You just get it. I'm starting to, I said. He didn't catch the edge in my voice. He never did. I'll make it up to you this weekend. I promise. Love you. Sure, I said and hung up. I didn't say I love you back. He didn't notice. I finished my wine and poured another glass. Tomorrow I'd start making calls. Tonight I'd make a plan. Bradley had spent 2 years lying to me, treating me like I was too naive to see what was right in front of my face. He was about to learn exactly how wrong he was. I raised my glass to the empty room, to my reflection in the darkened window. Happy anniversary to me. The woman staring back at me looked different somehow. Older. Harder. Ready. Good. That was exactly who I needed to be. I woke up on the couch the next morning, still wearing yesterday's dress. The wine bottle stood empty on the coffee table next to my laptop. Sunlight cut through the living room windows, making my head pound. For a second I thought maybe yesterday had been a nightmare. Then I remembered the kiss. The bracelet. The lies. My phone showed 3 missed calls from Bradley, all from early this morning. There was also a text. You were asleep when I got home. Didn't want to wake you. Have a breakfast meeting. See you tonight. Another lie. I'd heard him come in around 2 in the morning. I'd pretended to be asleep when he checked on me, then listened to him shower before climbing into bed. He'd smelled like floral perfume. Not my perfume. Rachel's. I made coffee and opened my laptop. The pages I'd bookmarked last night stared back at me. I started with divorce lawyers, reading reviews and specialties. I needed someone tough. Someone who wouldn't be impressed by Bradley's money or his charm. Someone who'd fought men like him before and won. I found her by noon. Patricia Okonkwo. Her website showed a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a record of winning high-profile divorce cases. Her reviews all said the same thing. She was fair but ruthless when protecting her clients. She didn't back down. Perfect. I called and made an appointment for Monday morning, using my maiden name. The receptionist didn't ask questions. Next, I needed a private investigator. This felt like something from a movie, but the lawyer websites all recommended it. Apparently, you needed evidence. Lots of it. Photos, documents, testimony. You couldn't just walk into court and say your husband was cheating. You had to prove it. I found an investigator named Jerome Mitchell who specialized in infidelity cases. His website promised discretion and results. I sent an email inquiry, again using my maiden name. By afternoon, I felt like I'd run a marathon. My best friend Simone called just as I was closing the laptop. Girl, how was the anniversary dinner? She asked. Her voice was bright and happy. Normal. Like the world hadn't ended yesterday. I started to say it was fine. That was what I always did. Bradley preferred privacy. He didn't like me sharing our personal business, even with my closest friends. I'd learned to keep things surface level, to smile and say everything was great. But I was done with that. He didn't show up, I said. Silence. Then, what do you mean he didn't show up? I went to surprise him at his office. He was celebrating something with Rachel, his assistant. He gave her the bracelet I wanted. Then he kissed her. A real kiss, Simone. Not an accident. More silence. I could practically hear her processing this information. I'm coming over, she said. Right now. Don't move. She hung up before I could respond. Simone arrived 20 minutes later with coffee, donuts, and a fury in her eyes I'd never seen before. She pulled me into a hug first, tight and fierce. I knew something was off with him, she said, marching into the kitchen. I told Jerome last month that Bradley was acting strange at the charity event. Too friendly with that assistant. But I thought maybe I was imagining things. Jerome was Simone's husband. They'd been married for 10 years and still acted like newlyweds. They finished each other's sentences. They laughed at each other's jokes. They were what I'd thought Bradley and I were. I didn't want to see it, I admitted. All the late nights, the business trips, the way he always had his phone face down. I told myself he was just busy. That building a company takes time. Building a company doesn't require giving diamond bracelets to your assistant. Simone set the coffee and donuts on the counter. What are you going to do? I found a divorce lawyer. I'm meeting her Monday. And I hired a private investigator to document everything. Simone's eyebrows shot up. You work fast. I'm done being slow. I've been slow for 2 years while he did whatever he wanted. 2 years? You think it's been going on that long? I went upstairs and retrieved the shoebox from Bradley's closet. Simone went through the receipts, her face getting darker with each one. This one is from your birthday weekend, she said, holding up a hotel receipt. He told you he was at a conference in Seattle. But this hotel is downtown. 20 minutes from here. I know. And this jewelry store receipt is from Valentine's Day. You told me he got you flowers from the grocery store because he forgot until the last minute. He remembered for Rachel. Simone threw the receipt down. I want to go to his office right now and throw all of this in his face. I want to tell everyone what a lying piece of garbage he is. Not yet, I said. He can't know that I know. Not until I have everything I need for the divorce. You're stronger than me. I'd have set his car on fire by now. I almost smiled. The week is young. We spent the rest of the afternoon going through everything. Credit card statements I found filed in Bradley's home office. Bank records showing cash withdrawals that never got explained. Calendar entries that didn't match what he'd told me about his schedule. The evidence was everywhere once I started looking. How had I missed all of this? How had I been so blind? You weren't blind, Simone said when I asked the question out loud. You trusted him. That's what you're supposed to do in a marriage. He's the one who broke that trust. I feel stupid. You're not stupid. He's a liar. There's a difference. By evening, we'd created a timeline of Bradley's affair. It had started small. Drinks after work. Then dinners. Weekend meetings that probably weren't meetings at all. Somewhere around 18 months ago, it had become physical. The hotel receipts started appearing. The jewelry purchases increased. The lies got bigger. And I'd been home, planning dinner parties for his clients and organizing his dry cleaning. You need to protect yourself financially, Simone said. Before he finds out, you know. Men like Bradley will drain accounts and hide assets the second they think you're onto them. How do I do that? First, open your own bank account. Somewhere he doesn't bank. Put money in it. Not so much he'll notice right away, but enough that you have a cushion. Then make copies of everything. Bank statements, tax returns, property deeds, investment accounts. Everything. That feels sneaky. It is sneaky. But he's been sneaky for 2 years. You're just protecting yourself. She was right. I'd spent so long being the good wife, following Bradley's rules, trusting his decisions. Where had that gotten me? After Simone left, I opened accounts at a different bank. I transferred $5,000 from our household account. Not enough to trigger any alerts, but enough to start building my escape fund. Then I started gathering documents. Bradley kept everything organized in his office, probably because he never thought I'd look through them. Tax returns going back 7 years. Investment portfolios. Property deeds for the house and the cabin upstate. Business partnership agreements. I photographed everything with my phone and uploaded the images to a cloud account Bradley didn't know existed. Then I put everything back exactly as I'd found it. By midnight, I had a whole secret life Bradley knew nothing about. Bank accounts. Legal consultations scheduled. Evidence documented. It felt powerful and terrifying at the same time. Bradley came home around 1 in the morning. I was in bed, pretending to sleep again. He showered and climbed in beside me, careful not to wake me. His hand touched my shoulder, gentle and familiar. I wanted to flinch away. I wanted to scream at him, to demand answers, to make him hurt the way I was hurting. Instead, I stayed still and breathed evenly, playing the role of the unsuspecting wife. The part I'd been playing for years apparently. "Love you," he whispered in the dark. I didn't respond. He didn't seem to notice. Within minutes, he was asleep, probably dreaming about Rachel and their secret life together. I stared at the ceiling until sunrise, making plans. Monday I'd meet with the lawyer. I'd give her everything I'd found. I'd start building the case that would end this marriage and make sure Bradley couldn't walk away without consequences. He wanted to play games? Fine. But he'd started a game with the wrong person. I might have been naive before, but I was wide awake now. And I was going to win. Monday morning arrived cold and gray. I told Bradley I was meeting an old college friend for brunch. He barely looked up from his phone. "Have fun," he said, kissing my cheek. "I'll be late again tonight. Big investor meeting." "Of course," I said sweetly. "Good luck." He left in his Tesla, probably heading straight to Rachel. I waited 10 minutes, then drove to Patricia Okonkwo's office in my own car, the one Bradley had bought me 3 years ago and barely remembered I owned. Her office was in a renovated building downtown, all exposed brick and modern furniture. The receptionist offered me coffee and told me Patricia would be right with me. I waited, my stomach in knots. This was real. I was really doing this. Once I walked through those doors and started talking, there was no going back. My marriage would officially be over. Good, I thought. It's been over for 2 years. I just didn't know it. "Naomi?" A woman appeared in the doorway. Patricia Okonkwo looked exactly like her photo, professional and composed. She smiled and extended her hand. "Come on back." Her office had a view of the city. Pictures of her family lined the credenza behind her desk. 2 kids, a husband, all smiling at some beach somewhere. A real family. The kind I thought I had. "Tell me what's going on," Patricia said, settling into her chair. I told her everything. The anniversary that wasn't mine. The receipts. The timeline Simone and I had created. The evidence I'd gathered over the weekend. I showed her the photos on my phone, the bank statements, the credit card charges. Patricia took notes, her expression neutral and professional. When I finished, she looked up. "How long have you been married?" 7 years. "Any children?" "No. Bradley always said we'd wait until the company was more stable. I'm starting to think he never wanted kids with me." Patricia nodded. "Do you work?" "I used to teach 2nd grade. But Bradley asked me to quit when we got married. He wanted me available for company functions and client dinners." "So you've been financially dependent on him for 7 years?" "Yes." "That actually works in your favor," Patricia said. "You gave up your career to support his. That counts. Do you have any prenup?" "No." Bradley said prenups were for people who didn't believe in their marriage. Patricia's mouth tightened. "Of course he did." "Okay, here's what we're looking at. You have strong evidence of infidelity. That matters in this state. You also sacrificed your career for the marriage, which entitles you to alimony and a significant portion of marital assets. The house, investments, his business holdings, everything acquired during the marriage is community property. What about his company? He started it before we met. But it grew during your marriage, partly because you supported him by handling everything at home. You're entitled to a share of that growth. We'll need to get the business valued." My head was spinning. I'd been so focused on proving Bradley was cheating that I hadn't thought much about what came after. The actual divorce. Splitting our life apart. "How long does this take?" I asked. "Depends on how cooperative he is. If he fights, it could take a year or more. If he wants it done quickly and quietly to protect his reputation, we could settle in a few months. I want him to pay for what he did." Patricia smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. "Then we'll make sure he does. I'm going to recommend we hire a forensic accountant to go through his business finances. Men who cheat often hide money. We need to make sure we find everything before we file. Whatever it takes." We spent another hour going over strategy. Patricia explained the process, the timeline, the potential outcomes. By the time I left, I had a retainer agreement signed and a plan in motion. I felt lighter walking out than I had walking in. Like I'd been holding my breath for days and could finally exhale. My phone rang as I reached my car. The private investigator, Jerome Mitchell. "Mrs. Wallace? I got your email. Can we meet this afternoon?" We agreed on a coffee shop across town. I had 3 hours to kill, so I drove to the park where Bradley had proposed. It seemed important somehow to go back to the beginning and remember who I'd been then. The park looked the same. The bench where he'd gotten down on one knee was still there. A young couple sat on it now, taking selfies and laughing. I'd been so happy that day. Bradley had seemed perfect. Successful, charming, attentive. He'd promised me the world. A life of adventure and love and partnership. When had the promises stopped matching reality? Or had they ever? Had I been so dazzled by the proposal, the wedding, the lifestyle, that I'd never noticed Bradley wasn't actually the man he pretended to be? I sat on a different bench and watched the couple. They looked so young. So sure of their future together. I hoped they were right. I hoped their story ended better than mine. At 2 o'clock, I met Jerome Mitchell at the coffee shop. He was younger than I expected, maybe mid-30s, with an easy smile and sharp eyes that didn't match the casual demeanor. "Thanks for meeting me," I said. "Of course. Tell me what you need." I explained the situation again. Bradley, Rachel, the affair, the divorce I was planning. Jerome nodded. "You want documentation? Photos, video, evidence of them together?" "Yes. And I want to know if there's anything else. Other women. Financial problems. Anything that might be relevant." "I can do that. It'll take about 2 weeks to get comprehensive information. I'll tail him, check his patterns, see who he's meeting with. If he's hiding anything, I'll find it." "How much will this cost?" He quoted a number that made me wince. But Patricia had said evidence was crucial. I agreed to his terms and paid the retainer from my new secret bank account. "One more thing," Jerome said as we were finishing. "I always run background checks on everyone involved in these cases. Standard procedure. Is that okay?" "You mean on Bradley?" "On everyone. Him, the other woman, sometimes even my clients. It helps me know what I'm walking into." "That's fine. I'll need the other woman's full name." "Rachel," I said, then realized I didn't actually know her last name. Bradley always just called her Rachel. "I'll have to find out." "No problem. I can get that from public records once I identify her." We shook hands and agreed he'd send updates twice a week. As I drove home, I felt another piece clicking into place. The lawyer, the investigator, the evidence. I was building a case that Bradley wouldn't be able to fight. My phone buzzed with a text from Bradley. "Dinner with clients tonight. Don't wait up." "Dinner with clients? Sure." On impulse, I texted back. "What's Rachel's last name? I want to send her a thank you card for helping you so much with the Henderson deal." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then appeared again. Finally, Miller. "Rachel Miller. That's sweet of you. Rachel Miller." I typed it into my phone's notes app. Then I did something I hadn't done before. I searched for her on social media. Her Facebook was private, but her LinkedIn was public. Rachel Miller, executive assistant at Wallace Enterprises. She'd been with the company for 3 years. Before that, she'd worked at various companies, never staying more than a year or 2. Her profile picture showed a pretty blonde woman with a calculated smile. She looked young, maybe late 20s. Young enough to be impressed by Bradley's money and power. Old enough to know exactly what she was doing. I clicked through her work history looking for patterns. Something caught my eye. One of her previous employers had left a recommendation that seemed odd. "Rachel was an asset to our team during her time here. We wish her well in all her future endeavors." It was the kind of recommendation you wrote when you couldn't say anything good but had to say something. A polite dismissal. I dug deeper, searching for her name combined with her previous employers. Nothing came up. Her digital footprint was surprisingly clean for someone in her generation. Most people had photos, posts, check-ins. Rachel had almost nothing. That seemed strange. I made a note to tell Jerome about it. Maybe there was nothing there. Or maybe Rachel was better at hiding things than I'd thought. I kept scrolling through LinkedIn and found something that made me stop breathing. Rachel Miller's education section listed a college she'd attended 8 years ago. And in the activities section, barely visible unless you were looking for it, was a mention of the campus wedding chapel volunteer program. I clicked on her name again and searched more carefully. Her relationship status wasn't listed. Most people put single or married or in a relationship. Rachel had nothing. People who had nothing to hide didn't usually hide everything. I opened a new browser and searched public records for Rachel Miller. There were hundreds of them. I added her approximate age and the state. Still too many. Then I added marriage records. And there it was. Rachel Elizabeth Miller, married to Thomas Richard Griffin 8 years ago. The marriage license was filed in the county courthouse, public record for anyone to see. I searched for a divorce decree. Nothing came up. Rachel Miller was married. She'd been married this entire time. And Bradley had no idea. Or did he? I called Jerome back immediately. I need you to find someone else, I said. A man named Thomas Griffin. He's married to Rachel. Or was. I can't tell if they're divorced. Jerome was quiet for a moment. This just got more interesting. Can you find him? I can find anyone. Give me a day. I hung up and stared at the marriage license on my screen. Rachel Miller was a fraud. She'd lied to Bradley, to the company, to everyone. She'd presented herself as single and available when she had a husband somewhere. What else had she lied about? And more importantly, how could I use this information? I smiled for the first time in days. Bradley thought he was so smart, carrying on his secret affair with his perfect assistant. He had no idea that his perfect assistant had secrets of her own. Secrets that were about to destroy both of them. Jerome called me back the next afternoon. Found your guy. Thomas Griffin, age 35, architect living in Portland. Still married to Rachel Miller on paper. No divorce filing in any state database I can access. Is he remarried? Living with someone? No remarriage I can find. Lives alone in a condo downtown. Runs his own small firm. From what I can tell, he's not exactly living large, but he's doing okay. Can you get me his contact information? Already sent it to your email. But Naomi? Be careful. You're about to walk into someone else's life with information that might hurt them. This guy might not even know his wife is pretending he doesn't exist. I know, I said. But he deserves to know the truth. Just like I did. I opened the email and stared at Thomas Griffin's information. His business address, phone number, email. Jerome had even included a photo from his company website. Thomas Griffin was handsome in an understated way. Dark hair, kind eyes, a slight smile that looked genuine. He wore a simple button-down shirt in the photo, no tie. He looked approachable. Real. Nothing like Bradley with his expensive suits and practiced charm. I spent 2 days thinking about whether to contact him. What would I even say? Hello, your wife who you think is gone or divorced is actually having an affair with my billionaire husband. That seemed cruel. But he deserved to know. Just like I deserved to know. Finally, I sent an email to his business address. I kept it vague. Mr. Griffin, my name is Naomi Wallace. I'm working on a residential project and your work came highly recommended. Would you be available for a consultation this week? He responded within an hour. Hi Naomi, I'd be happy to discuss your project. I have time Thursday afternoon if that works for you. We set up a meeting at his office in Portland. That gave me 2 days to figure out what I was actually going to say. I told Bradley I was visiting my sister for a few days. She lived 2 hours in the opposite direction, but he didn't question it. He barely looked up from his phone. Have fun, he said. I'll be swamped with work anyway. Swamped with Rachel more likely. I drove to Portland Thursday morning, my stomach in knots the entire way. What was I doing? This was crazy. I was about to walk into a stranger's office and blow up his life. But maybe his life was already blown up. Maybe he was just like me, living in the dark while someone else wrote the story. Thomas Griffin's office was in a converted warehouse with big windows and exposed beams. A bell chimed when I opened the door. A young woman at the front desk smiled and asked if I was Naomi. He's expecting you. Go ahead back. I walked down a hallway lined with architectural drawings and photos of completed projects. Everything looked clean and modern but approachable. Not pretentious. Thomas's office door was open. He stood up when he saw me, extending his hand. Naomi? Thomas Griffin. Nice to meet you. His handshake was firm but not aggressive. His smile reached his eyes. He gestured to a chair across from his desk. So tell me about your project, he said, pulling out a notepad. This was it. The moment I either lied and wasted his time or told the truth and changed everything. I took a breath. I don't actually have a project. I'm sorry for misleading you. His smile faded. Okay. What is this about? It's about your wife, Rachel. Thomas went very still. His face drained of color. What did you say? Rachel Miller. You married her 8 years ago. You're still married to her legally. I checked the public records. Who are you? His voice was quiet but sharp. What do you want? I'm the wife of the man she's having an affair with. Silence. Long and painful. Thomas stared at me like I'd started speaking another language. Rachel is dead, he finally said. She died 3 years ago in a car accident. At least that's what I was told by her sister. I never saw a body. There was supposedly a fire and the remains were too badly burned to identify. I've been looking for her ever since because something never felt right about that story. But you're telling me she's alive? Now it was my turn to be shocked. She told people she was dead? Her sister called me. Said Rachel had been in an accident out of state. That she'd been cremated according to her wishes. I never got to say goodbye. I never got answers about why she'd left in the first place. When did she leave? 4 years ago. Just disappeared one day. Took our savings and vanished. I thought maybe she was in trouble or scared or having some kind of breakdown. I filed a missing person report. I hired investigators. Then her sister called and said she was dead and I had to accept it. He rubbed his face. Except I never fully accepted it. I kept looking. I knew something wasn't right. I pulled out my phone and showed him Rachel's LinkedIn profile. This is her. Is this your wife? Thomas looked at the screen. His hand shook slightly as he took the phone. That's her. That's Rachel. Where is she? She works for my husband. She's been his executive assistant for 3 years. They've been having an affair for at least 2 years, maybe longer. Thomas set my phone down carefully like it might break. I don't understand. Why would she do this? Why would she let me think she was dead? I don't know. But I'm trying to divorce my husband, and I found out about her marriage to you during the background check. I thought you deserved to know she's alive. This is insane. Thomas stood up and walked to the window. His shoulders were tense. I mourned her. I blamed myself for not seeing signs that something was wrong. I thought maybe if I'd been a better husband she wouldn't have left. And she's been alive this whole time working for some rich guy. A billionaire actually. Bradley Wallace. He owns Wallace Enterprises. Thomas turned around. The tech company? Yes. Jesus. He laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. She always wanted money. I couldn't give her enough. I had my business, but it was small. We were comfortable but not wealthy. She wanted more. Designer clothes, expensive restaurants, trips to Europe. I thought she'd accepted that we had to build slowly. I guess she just found someone else to give her what she wanted. I'm sorry, I said. I know this is a lot. Why are you really here, Naomi? What do you want from me? Honestly, I'm not entirely sure. I thought you deserved to know the truth. But also, I think we might be able to help each other. Help each other how? I'm building a divorce case against my husband. Having evidence that Rachel is married to someone else, that she's been committing fraud, that could be useful. And you probably want answers about why she did this to you. Thomas sat back down. You want to use me to hurt your husband. I want to use the truth to get justice. For both of us. He was quiet for a long time. I let him think. This wasn't a small ask. I was pulling him into a mess that wasn't his fault, asking him to relive trauma he thought he'd buried. Show me more, he finally said. Show me proof that she's alive and doing this. I showed him everything. Photos Jerome had taken of Rachel and Bradley together. Screenshots of her social media. Her employment history. The more Thomas saw, the harder his jaw got. She drained my savings account before she left, he said. $40,000. Everything I'd saved to expand my business. I had to take out loans to keep things running. I'm still paying them off. Did you report it? I couldn't. It was a joint account. Legally, she had as much right to it as I did. And then when I thought she was dead, it felt wrong to be angry about money. But she stole from me. She stole my money, my trust, years of my life. And she's been living it up with your billionaire husband. The anger in his voice matched what I'd been feeling for days. We were both victims of the same kind of betrayal. Different details, same pain. So will you help me? I asked. Thomas looked at me for a long moment. What exactly would I have to do? I'm not totally sure yet. But having you there, having proof that she's married, that could change everything. We could expose both of them together. When? My husband is having a company gala in 3 weeks. He's planning to announce Rachel as his new vice president. That's probably when he'll tell me he wants a divorce so he can be with her publicly. So we crash the party and tell everyone the truth? Something like that. I'm still working out the details with my lawyer. Thomas stood up again and paced. This is crazy. I know. I should tell you to leave and never contact me again. Probably. But I won't. He stopped pacing and looked at me. Because you're right. We both deserve justice. And Rachel doesn't get to pretend I don't exist while she ruins other people's lives. Relief flooded through me. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I might make things more complicated for you. I don't think they can get more complicated. Thomas almost smiled. You'd be surprised. We spent the next hour planning. Thomas agreed to come to the gala as my guest. We'd present ourselves as potential business partners, nothing more. Bradley wouldn't suspect anything. And when the moment was right, we'd reveal the truth about Rachel. As I was leaving, Thomas walked me to the door. Can I ask you something? Sure. How are you so calm about all this? Your husband is cheating on you with my wife. Most people would be falling apart. I fell apart, I said. For about a day. Then I got angry. Anger is more useful than sadness. I spent 3 years being sad, Thomas said. Maybe it's time for me to be angry too. Welcome to the club. I drove back home feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. Not for my marriage that was dead. But hope that maybe, just maybe, I could come out of this disaster as someone stronger. Someone who didn't let other people write her story anymore. Bradley was home when I got there, which was unusual. He was in the living room with a glass of wine looking at his phone. Hey, he said, barely looking up. How was your sister? Good. We had a nice time. That's good. He scrolled through whatever he was reading. Probably texts from Rachel. I looked at him and felt nothing. No love, no anger, no pain. Just nothing. It was freeing in a way. I'd spent so much energy caring what he thought, worrying about making him happy, trying to be the perfect wife. Now I was spending that energy destroying him. I'm going to take a bath, I said. Okay. I'll order dinner. I went upstairs and started the water. My phone buzzed with a text from Thomas. Thank you for telling me the truth. Whatever happens next, at least I know I'm not crazy. I texted back, we're going to make them pay for what they did. Looking forward to it. I smiled and put my phone away. Bradley had no idea what was coming. Neither did Rachel. But they were about to find out. The next 2 weeks moved fast. Patricia loved the idea of Thomas appearing at the gala. It adds another dimension to the case, she said during our meeting. Not only was your husband having an affair, but he was having an affair with a married woman who's been committing fraud. That's going to look very bad for him, especially in front of his investors. Jerome was making progress too. He documented 14 different occasions where Bradley and Rachel had met outside of work. Hotels, restaurants, weekend trips. He had photos, timestamps, everything. Your husband isn't careful, Jerome told me. He thinks he's untouchable. Men like him always do. Thomas and I talked on the phone every few days. At first, the conversations were just about planning for the gala. What we'd say, how we'd act when we'd reveal the truth. But gradually we started talking about other things too. He told me about his architecture firm, about the projects he was passionate about. About how he'd almost given up after Rachel left but pushed through because the work mattered to him. I told him about teaching, about how much I'd loved it and how much I regretted giving it up. About how I'd lost myself trying to be what Bradley wanted instead of figuring out what I wanted. You can go back to it, Thomas said. After this is over. You can do anything you want. I'm 32. That feels old to be starting over. I'm 35 and I feel like I'm starting over too. We can be old together. I laughed. Felt good to laugh. I hadn't done it much lately. Bradley barely noticed the change in me. He was too busy with work or with Rachel to pay attention to his wife. He came home late, left early, spent weekends at the office. We barely spoke except for basic logistics. Part of me wondered if he was planning to ask for a divorce soon. Maybe that's what the gala announcement was really about. Promoting Rachel so they could be together publicly. Getting everything lined up before he told me our marriage was over. He'd be disappointed to find out I'd beat him to it. Simone came over one afternoon to help me pick a dress for the gala. She'd brought 3 options from her boutique. You need to look incredible, she said, laying them out on my bed. Better than you've ever looked. This is your moment. I tried on all 3 and chose a deep red dress that hugged every curve. It was bold and powerful. The kind of dress that made a statement. Bradley is going to lose his mind when he sees you, Simone said. Good. I want him to remember what he's losing. Have you decided exactly what you're going to do at the gala? Thomas and I are still working out the details. But basically, we're going to let Bradley make his announcement about Rachel. Then Thomas is going to introduce himself as her husband. I'll have the divorce papers ready. Jerome will be there to document everything. This is like a movie. A really messed up movie. Simone hugged me. I'm proud of you. A month ago you were falling apart. Now you're taking control of your life. I should have done it years ago. You're doing it now. That's what matters. The day before the gala, Patricia called with news. The forensic accountant found something interesting. Bradley's been moving money out of the business accounts. Small amounts but consistent. It looks like he's been preparing for something. Preparing for what? Possibly hiding assets before a divorce. Or maybe funding Rachel's lifestyle without using traceable personal accounts. Either way, it's not good for him. We can use this. Everything was coming together. The evidence, the plan, the timeline. Tomorrow night, everything would change. Thomas arrived in town that evening. We'd agreed he'd stay at a hotel near the gala venue. I met him for coffee to go over final details. He looked different than he had in Portland. More serious. More determined. "You ready for this?" I asked. "I've been ready for 3 years. I just didn't know what I was getting ready for." We reviewed the plan one more time. Thomas would arrive at the gala as my guest. I'd introduce him to people as a potential business partner for a project I was working on. Bradley wouldn't question it because he never questioned anything I did. I was just his wife, harmless and predictable. After Bradley made his announcement about Rachel, Thomas would approach them. He'd introduce himself casually, then drop the truth about being Rachel's husband. I'd be right there with the divorce papers and Jerome would be filming everything. "What if she runs?" Thomas asked. "She can't. Security will be at all the exits because of the high-profile guests. She'll have to face this." "And Bradley? He'll try to control the situation. That's what he does. But there are going to be too many witnesses. Too many investors and board members watching. He won't be able to spin this." Thomas nodded. "I keep thinking about what I'm going to say to her. After all this time, after everything she did. What do you even say?" "The truth. That's all you owe her. She doesn't deserve the truth." "No. But you deserve to say it." We sat in silence for a moment. Tomorrow night would change both our lives. There was no going back after this. "Are you scared?" Thomas asked. "Terrified. But also excited." "Is that weird?" "No. I feel the same way. Like I'm about to step off a cliff but I know I can fly. Or we'll both crash spectacularly. Either way, it'll be better than living in lies." I went home and tried to sleep. Bradley was already in bed, scrolling through his phone. He didn't ask where I'd been. He didn't notice the garment bag with my dress hanging on the closet door. He didn't see me at all. Tomorrow he'd have no choice but to see me. I lay awake most of the night running through scenarios. What if something went wrong? What if Bradley found out beforehand? What if Rachel had a good excuse for everything? No, there was no excuse good enough. They'd both lied and cheated and destroyed lives. Tomorrow they'd face the consequences. At 6 in the morning I gave up on sleep and got up. Bradley was already gone. He'd left a note on the kitchen counter. "See you tonight. Going to be a big night." He had no idea how right he was. I spent the day getting ready. Hair, nails, makeup. I wanted to look perfect. Not for Bradley but for me. For the woman I was becoming. The one who didn't let anyone treat her like she didn't matter. Simone came over to help me with my dress and makeup. "You look like a queen," she said when I was ready. "I feel like a warrior." Same thing. Bradley came home at 6 to change. He stopped when he saw me. "Wow, you look amazing." "Thank you. This is for the investors. They're going to love you." Right. Everything was always about the investors. About appearances. About Bradley's image. Not anymore. We drove to the venue separately. Bradley said he had to arrive early to handle some last-minute details. I knew he was really going to spend time with Rachel before the event started. I arrived at 7 just as guests were beginning to fill the ballroom. It was beautiful. Crystal chandeliers, white roses everywhere, a string quartet playing in the corner. Bradley had spared no expense. Thomas found me near the bar. He looked good in a suit, confident and put together. "Ready?" "As I'll ever be." We spent the first hour mingling. I introduced Thomas to people as an architect I was working with on a personal project. Everyone was polite and friendly. No one suspected anything. I saw Rachel across the room, stunning in a gold dress. She was talking to investors, playing the perfect professional. She caught my eye once and smiled, friendly and fake. I smiled back. Just wait, I thought. Just wait. Bradley made his way through the crowd, shaking hands and laughing at jokes. He was in his element. The successful billionaire, the powerful CEO, the man everyone wanted to know. He had no idea his entire world was about to collapse. At 8:30, Bradley stepped up to the microphone on the small stage. The room quieted. This was it. "Thank you all for coming tonight," Bradley said. His voice was smooth and confident. "I want to talk to you about the future of Wallace Enterprises. And I want to introduce you to the person who's been instrumental in our recent success." He gestured to Rachel. She joined him on stage, smiling like she'd won the lottery. "Rachel Miller has been my executive assistant for 3 years. But she's been so much more than that. She's been a partner in every sense. She's helped me build this company into what it is today. And I'm proud to announce that she's being promoted to Vice President of Operations." Applause. Rachel beamed. Bradley looked at her with obvious affection. My stomach turned. But I kept my face neutral. Rachel brings dedication, intelligence, and loyalty to everything she does, Bradley continued. I honestly don't know where I'd be without her. More applause. Rachel said a few words about being honored and excited for the future. It was a perfect performance. Thomas touched my elbow. Now. We walked toward the stage together. People moved aside, probably thinking we wanted to congratulate them. Bradley saw me coming and smiled, probably thinking I was going to play the supportive wife. We reached the stage. Thomas stepped up first. Congratulations, Rachel, he said loudly enough for people nearby to hear. Or should I say, congratulations, Mrs. Griffin? Rachel's smile froze. The color drained from her face. I'm sorry, Bradley said, his CEO voice kicking in. Who are you? I'm Thomas Griffin, Rachel's husband. The room went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. That's impossible, Bradley said, but his voice wavered. He looked at Rachel. You're not married. I am, Thomas said. Have been for 8 years. Never divorced. It's all public record. Rachel tried to speak but nothing came out. She looked like she might pass out. I stepped up onto the stage. It's true. I had it verified. Rachel is married to Thomas. She's been lying to you, Bradley. About everything. Bradley's face went red. Naomi, what are you doing? I'm telling the truth. Something you haven't done in years. I pulled the divorce papers from my clutch and handed them to him. You're served. The room erupted. People started talking, pulling out phones, recording everything. Bradley looked at the papers, at me, at Rachel, like he couldn't process what was happening. You knew, he said to me. You knew about your affair? Yes. I've known for weeks. I've documented everything, Bradley. The hotels, the gifts, the lies. It's all in the divorce filing. Rachel finally found her voice. Thomas, I can explain. No, Thomas said. His voice was hard. You can't. You stole from me. You faked your own death. You've been living a lie. There's no explanation that makes that okay. Jerome was filming everything from the back of the room. Patricia stood near the exit, ready to intervene if needed. Everything was going according to plan. Bradley tried to take control. Everyone, please. This is a private matter. If we could just... It stopped being private when you paraded your mistress in front of all these people, I said. These investors deserve to know who they're doing business with. A man who lies to his wife, who covers up fraud, who uses company money to fund his affair. That's not true, Bradley said, but his voice lacked conviction. The forensic accountant has the records. It's all there. The investors were talking among themselves now. Board members were heading for the exits. Bradley's perfect night was falling apart in real time. Rachel tried to leave the stage, but Thomas blocked her path. You don't get to run away again. You owe me answers. I don't owe you anything, she said, her voice shaking. You owe me $40,000. You owe me 3 years of thinking you were dead. You owe me an explanation for why you destroyed my life. Security was moving toward the stage now. Patricia intercepted them, showing some kind of documentation. They stopped and backed off. Bradley grabbed my arm. You're ruining everything. I pulled away. You ruined everything 2 years ago. I'm just making sure everyone knows it. I walked off the stage, Thomas beside me. The crowd parted as we moved through it. Some people stared. Others looked away. A few older women nodded at me with something like respect. We made it outside into the cool night air. I was shaking. Thomas put his hand on my shoulder. You okay? I just blew up my entire life in front of 200 people. You stood up for yourself. That's not the same thing. Simone appeared with my coat. That was incredible. You're incredible. Inside we could hear raised voices. Bradley and Rachel arguing. Investors demanding answers. The perfect gala had turned into a disaster. My phone buzzed. Patricia, get out of there. We have everything we need. I'll handle the rest. Thomas called for a car. We left the venue, leaving Bradley and Rachel to deal with the wreckage of their lies. As we drove away, I looked back at the building one last time. Somewhere in there, Bradley was realizing he'd lost everything. His wife, his reputation, probably his company. I should have felt guilty. I didn't. I felt free. The aftermath hit fast. By morning, videos from the gala were all over social media. Someone had live-streamed the whole confrontation. Bradley's company stock dropped 15% before trading was halted. News outlets were calling it the gala scandal of the year. I stayed at a hotel that night, the same one where Thomas was staying. Simone came with me. We ordered room service and watched the videos play on loop across different news channels. You broke the internet, Simone said. I broke my marriage. Your marriage was already broken. You just made everyone else see it. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Bradley called 47 times. I didn't answer. His texts evolved from angry to pleading to threatening and back to pleading again. I blocked his number around midnight. Rachel tried calling too, though I had no idea how she got my personal number. Those calls I also ignored. Thomas knocked on my door around 1 in the morning. Can't sleep either? Too much adrenaline. We sat in the hotel lobby with coffee, watching the few remaining guests check in. Everything felt surreal. 12 hours ago, I'd been Bradley's wife, living in our big house, playing my role. Now I was in a hotel room, my face all over the news, my old life completely destroyed. Do you regret it? Thomas asked. No. Do you? Not even a little bit. I've been carrying around what Rachel did to me for 3 years. Tonight I finally put it down. What happens now? With you and her? I'm filing for divorce. I should have done it years ago, but I kept hoping she'd come back. That we could fix things. I see now there was nothing to fix. She was never the person I thought she was. Same with Bradley. I spent 7 years married to a stranger. At least we're done with them now. Patricia called at 7 in the morning. Are you watching the news? Can't stop watching it. Good. It's helping our case. Bradley's company is in free fall. The board is demanding answers. Several investors have pulled out. His lawyers called me an hour ago wanting to talk settlement. Already? He wants this to go away quickly. The longer it drags out, the more damage it does to his reputation and his business. He's willing to be generous if we can settle fast and quietly. How generous? Very. I'll send you the initial offer, but Naomi, it's more than I expected. The house, half the investment accounts, 3 years of alimony, and a cash settlement. He's also agreed not to contest anything. What does he want in return? For you to sign an NDA. No more public comments about the affair or the divorce. No book deals, no interviews, no social media posts. He wants to control the narrative going forward. I thought about it. Part of me wanted to keep talking, to make sure everyone knew exactly what Bradley had done. But another part just wanted to be done. To take the money and move on with my life. Tell him I'll consider it if he doubles the cash settlement and gives me 4 years of alimony instead of 3. Patricia laughed. I'll make the call. She hung up. I sat on the bed, processing. Bradley wanted to pay me to be quiet. After everything he'd done, he thought money could fix it. The sad thing was, he was probably right. I didn't want to spend the next year fighting in court. I didn't want lawyers and depositions and having my private life dissected by strangers. I wanted to be free. Simone came back from getting breakfast. Patricia says Bradley's freaking out. Good. Let him freak out. His board is talking about removing him as CEO. One of the investors told the press that they can't trust someone who's been covering up fraud and having affairs with employees. I turned on the news. Sure enough, there was a clip of an investor being interviewed outside Wallace Enterprises. Mr. Wallace has shown a severe lack of judgment. His personal conduct reflects on the company, and frankly, it's unacceptable. Another investor chimed in. The fact that his executive assistant was married and committing fraud, and he either knew or should have known, raises serious questions about his leadership. Bradley's perfect reputation was crumbling. All those years of carefully crafted image destroyed in one night. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello. Mrs. Wallace, this is Detective Sarah Chin from the Fraud Division. I'd like to ask you some questions about Rachel Miller. My stomach dropped. What kind of questions? We're investigating possible wire fraud and identity theft. Your name came up in connection with our case. Can you come down to the station this afternoon? I agreed and hung up. This was getting more complicated. Thomas was in the lobby when I came down. The police called you too? They're investigating Rachel for fraud. She drained my bank account before she disappeared. I filed a report back then, but they couldn't find her. Now that we know where she is, they're reopening the case. We drove to the police station together. Detective Chen was a no-nonsense woman in her 40s who seemed unimpressed by the whole scandal. Let me be clear, she said once we were in an interview room. I don't care about your divorce or your feelings. I care about whether crimes were committed. So I need you to tell me everything you know about Rachel Miller. I told her about finding the marriage license, about hiring Jerome to investigate, about discovering Rachel had been presenting herself as single while still legally married. I gave her copies of everything Patricia had collected. Thomas told her about the stolen money, the fake death story, the 3 years he'd spent looking for her. Detective Chin took notes. Has Ms. Miller stolen from your husband's company? My forensic accountant thinks so. She found irregular transfers that might be connected to Rachel. I'll need those records. My lawyer has them. Patricia Okonkwo. Detective Chin nodded. I know Patricia. She's good. Tell her to send everything over today. After the interview, Thomas and I went to lunch. We were both exhausted. This is way more complicated than I expected, I said. We opened a can of worms. More like a can of poisonous snakes. Thomas almost smiled. But you know what? I'm glad we did it. Whatever happens now, at least the truth is out. Do you think Rachel will go to jail? If they can prove fraud, maybe. I hope so. She deserves consequences for what she did. So does Bradley. The difference is Rachel broke laws. Your husband just broke your heart. The law doesn't punish that. No. But divorce court can. Patricia called while we were eating. Bradley agreed to your terms. Double the cash settlement for years of alimony, everything else stays the same. He wants you to sign the NDA as soon as possible. How much total? She named a figure that made me choke on my water. It was more money than I'd ever imagined having. Enough to buy a house, start a business, live comfortably for years. When does he want this finalized? He wants papers signed by the end of the week. He's desperate to move forward. Tell him I'll think about it. Naomi, this is a very generous offer. If we go to court, we might not get this much. I know. But I'm not going to rush this just because he wants it over with. I hung up and told Thomas what Patricia had said. That's life-changing money, he said. It is. But it also feels like he's buying my silence. He is buying your silence. That's literally what an NDA is. Doesn't that bother you? A little. But it also gets you out. You can take the money and start over somewhere new. Build the life you actually want. He was right. I'd been so focused on destroying Bradley that I hadn't thought much about what came after. What did I want my life to look like? I wanted my own place. My own money. Maybe I'd go back to teaching, or maybe I'd do something completely different. I wanted to wake up in the morning without dreading the day ahead. I wanted to make decisions without asking permission. I wanted to be free. I'll sign the NDA, I said. But on my timeline, not his. Bradley was waiting outside my hotel that evening. Hotel security tried to stop him, but he pushed past them and cornered me near the elevators. We need to talk, he said. No, we don't. Your lawyers can talk to my lawyer. Naomi, please. Just 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We went to a quiet corner of the lobby. Why did you do it? He asked. Why did you have to make it so public? We could have handled this privately. Like you handled your affair privately? For 2 years. That was different. How? How was it different, Bradley? He ran his hands through his hair. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, rumpled clothes, none of his usual polish. I made mistakes, he said. I know that. But destroying my company, humiliating me in front of everyone, that was cruel. You think I'm cruel? I almost laughed. You spent our anniversary with another woman. You gave her the bracelet I wanted. You lied to my face every single day. But I'm the cruel one? I was going to tell you. I was waiting for the right time. There's no right time to tell your wife you're cheating on her. I wasn't happy, Naomi. Our marriage had been dead for years. You must have felt it too. I felt it because you killed it. You checked out. You stopped trying. You found someone new and discarded me like I didn't matter. You do matter. You did matter. Past tense. That says everything. Bradley looked at me with something like desperation. Can we fix this? Can we try again? No. Just like that? 7 years of marriage and you're done? You were done 2 years ago when you started sleeping with Rachel. I'm just catching up. What if I end things with her? What if I promise to change? You're only saying that because your company is falling apart and you need to save your reputation. You don't love me, Bradley. I'm not sure you ever did. That's not true. Isn't it? You wanted a wife who looked good at parties and stayed out of your way. That's what I was to you. A beautiful accessory. But I'm not doing that anymore. So you're just going to take my money and leave? Your lawyers offered me that money. I'm just accepting it. Bradley stood up. You've changed. The old Naomi wouldn't have done any of this. You're right. The old Naomi believed your lies. The new Naomi knows better. He walked away without another word. I watched him go and felt nothing. No sadness, no regret, no second thoughts. Just relief. Thomas found me still sitting in the lobby. Was that Bradley? Yeah. He wanted to know if we could fix things. What did you say? I said no. Good. We went up to my room. Simone was there packing my things. She'd gone to the house earlier with a security guard and gotten my clothes and personal items while Bradley was out. I didn't take anything valuable, she said. Just your stuff. Let the lawyers fight over the rest. Thank you. Are you signing the settlement? Yes, I think I am. Then what? Then I figure out who I am when I'm not Mrs. Bradley Wallace. Thomas helped pack while Simone ordered dinner. We ate on the floor of my hotel room, surrounded by boxes and bags, planning futures that didn't include the people who'd hurt us. It felt like a beginning. Patricia had the papers ready by Wednesday. I read through every page, every clause of the settlement agreement. Bradley was giving me more than I'd ever expected. The house would be sold and we'd split the proceeds. I'd get half of all investment accounts, retirement funds, and savings. The cash settlement was substantial. 4 years of alimony that would more than cover my expenses while I figured out my next steps. And the NDA. 3 pages of legal language that basically said I'd never talk publicly about Bradley, the affair, Rachel, or any of it. I couldn't write a book, do interviews, post on social media, or discuss details with anyone except my lawyer and immediate family. If I violated it, I'd have to return all the money and pay damages. It's restrictive, Patricia said when we met. But it's also fair. He's paying for your silence and you're getting enough money to start over however you want. What if people ask me questions? The story is everywhere. You say no comment. You redirect. You tell them your lawyer advised you not to discuss it. Most people will lose interest after a few weeks anyway. There will be a new scandal to focus on. I signed the papers on Thursday afternoon. Patricia witnessed and notarized everything. Just like that, my marriage was officially over. We'd still have to wait for the divorce to be finalized by the court, but everything was agreed to. No fight, no trial, no drama. Bradley's lawyer had already signed. We'd never have to see each other again if we didn't want to. That night, I moved into a furnished apartment Simone had found for me. It was small but nice, with big windows and hardwood floors. Nothing like the house I'd shared with Bradley, but it was mine. My name on the lease. My decisions about furniture and paint colors and what time I went to bed. Thomas came over to help me move in. He decided to stay in town for a few more days while his lawyer handled the divorce from Rachel. The police want me to testify about what she did, he said, carrying in boxes. They think they can charge her with wire fraud and identity theft. Will you do it? Yes. She needs to face consequences. And honestly, I need the closure. I need to stand in a courtroom and tell everyone what she did to me. That's brave. It's necessary. I spent 3 years thinking she was dead, blaming myself for not being enough. Now I know the truth. She didn't leave because of anything I did. She left because she's a con artist who found a better mark. We ordered pizza and ate on the floor since my furniture wouldn't arrive until tomorrow. It felt strange but good, sitting in my empty apartment with someone who understood what I'd been through. Can I ask you something? Thomas said. Sure. What made you decide to go through with it? The public confrontation at the gala. That took guts. I was tired of being invisible. Bradley had made me feel small for years, like I didn't matter. I wanted him to see me. I wanted everyone to see me. Mission accomplished. You're kind of famous now. I groaned. Don't remind me. My face is all over the internet. You look good though. Powerful. I feel powerful. For the first time in years. My phone buzzed. Unknown number again. I answered cautiously. Naomi Wallace? A woman's voice. Yes. This is Jennifer Hart from Channel 7 News. I'd love to interview you about. I hung up. Patricia had warned me this would happen. Everyone wanted the story from my perspective. But I'd signed the NDA. I couldn't talk even if I wanted to. And I didn't want to. Let Bradley and Rachel deal with the media circus. I was done with it. The next few days passed quietly. My furniture arrived. I unpacked boxes. I set up my new space exactly how I wanted it. No expensive art or designer furniture. Just comfortable things that made me happy. Simone took me shopping for new clothes. You need a whole new wardrobe, she said. Bradley's wife wore designer labels and uncomfortable heels. Naomi wears whatever she wants. We bought jeans and soft sweaters and boots I could actually walk in. Nothing fancy. Nothing for show. Just clothes that felt like me. Thomas flew back to Portland on Sunday. We met for coffee before he left. My lawyer says the divorce from Rachel should be quick since she's facing criminal charges. She's not exactly in a position to fight. That's good. I wanted to thank you. For finding me, for telling me the truth. I know it complicated your life. You complicated Bradley's life. That's different. He smiled. True. Are you going to be okay? I think so. For the first time in a long time, I actually think I'm going to be okay. Stay in touch. Definitely. We hugged goodbye. He smelled like coffee and honesty. Nothing like Bradley's expensive cologne that always seemed like it was hiding something. As I watched him walk away, I realized I was going to miss him. We'd only known each other for a few weeks, but we'd been through something intense together. He understood me in a way most people couldn't. But he had his life in Portland and I needed to figure out mine here. I spent the next week settling into my new normal. I went to the grocery store and bought food I liked, not what Bradley preferred. I stayed up late reading books instead of waiting for him to come home. I woke up when I wanted to, not when his alarm went off. It was quiet. Sometimes too quiet. But it was also peaceful. Patricia called on Friday. The court date is set for the final divorce decree. 3 weeks from now. It's just a formality since you've already agreed to everything. You don't even have to attend if you don't want to. I'll be there. I want to see it through. Bradley probably won't come. His lawyer will represent him. Good. I don't need to see him. She paused. How are you doing, Naomi? Really? I'm okay. Some days are harder than others. But I'm building something new. Something that's actually mine. That's all you can do. Move forward. Leave the past where it belongs. That weekend I started looking at teaching positions. Several schools had openings for the next semester. I sent out resumes, not sure if any school would want to hire someone who'd been all over the news recently. To my surprise, I got 3 interviews scheduled for the following week. Teachers with life experience are valuable, one principal told me on the phone. You've been through something difficult and came out stronger. That's the kind of resilience we want to model for our students. Maybe my scandal wasn't the disaster I'd thought it was. Maybe it was just the thing that broke me out of a life that wasn't working. Bradley texted me once from a new number I didn't have blocked. I saw you're looking for teaching jobs. Good for you. I hope you find what you're looking for. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say to him. Jerome sent me a final report of his investigation. Photos, videos, documentation of everything Bradley and Rachel had done. Patricia had copies for the court, but Jerome sent me a set too. In case you ever need them, his note said. I looked through the file once, then closed it. I didn't need to see Bradley and Rachel together anymore. That chapter was over. I was more interested in the blank pages ahead. On Tuesday I had my first teaching interview. The principal was a kind woman named Barbara who'd been in education for 30 years. She asked about my experience, my teaching philosophy, why I'd taken time off. I told her the truth. I gave up teaching when I got married. My husband wanted me available for his career. I thought I was being supportive. I realized now I was just erasing myself. And now I want my life back. I want to do work that matters. I want to teach kids who need someone to believe in them. Barbara smiled. You're hired. If you want it. Really? Really? We need teachers who understand that life doesn't always go according to plan. Teachers who know how to be strong when things fall apart. You can start after winter break if that works for you. I accepted on the spot. Walking out of that school, I felt lighter than I had in years. I had a job. My own money coming in, not dependent on Bradley or the settlement. My own purpose. I called Simone. I got the teaching job. She screamed so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. I'm so proud of you. We're celebrating tonight. I'm taking you to dinner and we're getting the expensive wine. Thomas texted congratulations when I told him. Knew you'd land on your feet. You're a fighter. Learning to be, I texted back. That night at dinner with Simone and Jerome, I realized how much my life had changed in a month. I'd gone from being Bradley's wife, living in his shadow, to being my own person with my own plans. To new beginnings, Simone said, raising her glass. To revenge, Jerome added with a grin. To truth, I said. And to friends who stick around when everything falls apart. We clinked glasses. I looked around the restaurant at the other people eating and talking and living their lives. A month ago, I would have been home alone, waiting for Bradley to decide when he'd show up. Now I was out with friends celebrating my future. The gala was in 2 days. Bradley's big company event where everything had fallen apart. Where I'd confronted him and Rachel in front of everyone. Where I'd filed for divorce and ended my marriage publicly. I should have been nervous. Instead, I felt ready. Whatever happened next, I could handle it. I'd already survived the worst. Everything else was just details. The night of the gala arrived. I'd spent the morning at the salon, getting my hair styled and my makeup done. I wanted to look perfect. Not for Bradley but for me. This was my night. My moment to stand up and take control of my own story. The red dress fit perfectly. I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked confident. Powerful. Nothing like the quiet wife who used to fade into the background at Bradley's events. Thomas picked me up at 6. He looked good in his suit, confident and ready. You look incredible, he said. So do you? Ready to blow up some lives? Been ready for 3 years. We drove to the venue, a luxury hotel downtown where Bradley's company always held their events. The ballroom was already filling with guests when we arrived. Investors, board members, employees, all dressed in expensive clothes and fake smiles. I spotted Rachel immediately. She wore a gold dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. She was working the room with Bradley, playing the perfect professional. They looked good together, I had to admit. Both polished and beautiful and completely fake. Bradley saw me and his face went pale. He clearly hadn't expected me to actually show up. I smiled and waved like nothing was wrong. He recovered quickly, putting on his CEO smile and nodding back. He's rattled, Thomas said quietly. Good. Let him be rattled. We mingled for the first hour. I introduced Thomas to several people as a potential business partner. Everyone was polite, asking about his architecture firm and praising his work. No one suspected what was really about to happen. Jerome was there too, disguised as part of the catering staff. He had cameras hidden in his uniform, documenting everything. Patricia stood near the exit, ready to intervene if needed. Everything was in place. Rachel came over at one point, her smile bright and poisonous. Naomi, I didn't expect to see you here. I wouldn't miss it. Big night for you, right? Bradley's been very generous with the promotion. I'm sure he has. You've certainly earned it. Her smile faltered slightly. She could hear the edge in my voice but couldn't quite place what it meant. Well, enjoy the evening. She walked away, her heels clicking on the marble floor. Thomas watched her go. That's her. That's Rachel. You okay? I've imagined this moment for 3 years. I thought I'd be angrier. But mostly I just feel sorry for your husband. He has no idea who he's been sleeping with. He's about to find out. At 8:30, Bradley stepped up to the microphone. The room quieted down. This was it. The moment everything changed. Thank you all for coming tonight, Bradley said. His voice was smooth and confident, the same voice he used in boardrooms and investor meetings. I want to talk to you about the future of Wallace Enterprises. He launched into his speech about quarterly growth and new initiatives. I barely listened. I was watching Rachel, who stood off to the side looking proud and confident. And now, Bradley said, I want to introduce someone who's been instrumental in our recent success. Rachel Miller has been my executive assistant for 3 years, but she's been so much more than that. A partner, a confidant, someone I trust completely. He gestured for Rachel to join him on stage. She climbed the steps gracefully, her smile radiant. I'm proud to announce that Rachel is being promoted to Vice President of Operations, Bradley continued. She brings intelligence, dedication, and loyalty to everything she does. I honestly don't know where I'd be without her. The crowd applauded. Rachel stepped up to the microphone and said a few words about being honored and excited for the opportunity. She looked directly at me once, her smile triumphant. That smile was about to disappear. Bradley wrapped up his announcement and started to step away from the microphone. That's when Thomas and I moved forward. We walked through the crowd, people parting to let us through. Thomas climbed onto the stage first. Bradley saw him coming and his expression shifted from confusion to concern. Congratulations, Rachel, Thomas said loudly. His voice carried across the silent room. Or should I say, congratulations, Mrs. Griffin? The room went silent. Rachel's face drained of all color. Bradley stepped forward. I'm sorry, who are you? I'm Thomas Griffin. He pulled out a document from his jacket pocket. Rachel's husband. We've been married for 8 years. No divorce. It's all public record. I have the marriage certificate right here. He held it up for everyone to see. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones came out, people starting to record. Bradley turned to Rachel. What is he talking about? Rachel couldn't speak. She just stood there, frozen, all the confidence draining out of her. I climbed onto the stage next. It's true. I had it verified through public records. Rachel has been lying to you about everything, Bradley. She's married. She's a fraud. Bradley's face went red. Naomi, what are you doing? I'm doing what you should have done years ago. Telling the truth. I pulled the divorce papers from my clutch and handed them to him. You're served. I'm divorcing you for adultery. It's all documented. The affairs, the money you spent on her, all of it. The room erupted. People were talking, recording, calling others. Board members looked shocked. Investors were already heading for the exits. Bradley looked at the papers, then at me. You knew. How long have you known? Long enough to document everything. The hotels, the restaurants, the jewelry. Jerome's been following you for weeks. I pointed to Jerome, who was openly filming now. It's all on video, Bradley. Every lie you told me while you were with her. Rachel finally found her voice. This is insane. Thomas, I can explain. Don't, Thomas said. His voice was hard as steel. You stole $40,000 from me. You faked your own death. You let me think you were gone for 3 years while you were here, living it up with him. He pointed at Bradley. There's no explanation that makes any of that okay. I didn't fake my death. My sister told you that. Your sister who doesn't exist? I checked Rachel. You're an only child. More gasps from the crowd. This was even better than I'd planned. Rachel had lied about everything. Bradley tried to take control. Everyone please. This is clearly a private matter that should be handled privately. If we could all just... It stopped being private when you made her a VP in front of all these people, I said. These investors deserve to know who they're doing business with. Naomi's right, a voice called from the back. One of the board members stepped forward. Bradley, is this true? Have you been having an affair with a married woman? It's not what it looks like, Bradley said, but his voice lacked conviction. How is it not what it looks like? I pulled out my phone and showed photos Jerome had taken. Here's you and Rachel at the Ritz 2 weeks ago. Here's you giving her that bracelet. Here's you kissing her in your office. Should I keep going? The board member looked disgusted. We'll need to convene an emergency meeting. This is unacceptable. Other board members were nodding. Investors were talking among themselves, pulling out phones to call their legal teams. Bradley's perfect night was falling apart in real time. Rachel tried to leave the stage, but security blocked her path. Patricia had called the police, and they were waiting outside to question her about the fraud. You can't just do this, Rachel said to me. Her voice was shaking. You're ruining everything. You ruined everything when you decided to sleep with my husband while still being married to someone else. You committed fraud, Rachel. That's a crime. I didn't commit fraud. You stole from me, Thomas said. You presented yourself as single when you were married. You've been using a false identity for years. That's fraud. Detective Chin appeared at the edge of the stage with 2 officers. Rachel Miller? We need you to come with us. What? No. I haven't done anything wrong. You're not under arrest, but we need to ask you some questions about possible wire fraud and identity theft. You can come voluntarily or we can get a warrant. Rachel looked around wildly, like she was searching for an escape route. But there was nowhere to go. Everyone was watching. Everyone had their phones out, recording every second. She slowly climbed down from the stage. The police escorted her out and the room erupted in chaos. Bradley tried one more time to control the situation. If I could have everyone's attention. But no one was listening. Investors were demanding answers. Board members were calling emergency meetings. Employees were whispering and staring. Bradley's carefully crafted reputation was crumbling in real time. I walked off the stage with Thomas beside me. Simone appeared with my coat. Patricia met us near the exit. That went even better than planned, Patricia said. We have everything we need. The settlement is already signed, so you're free to go. What happens to Bradley now? That's his problem to deal with. You're done with him. We walked out into the cool night air. Behind us, the gala had descended into chaos. Through the windows, I could see Bradley trying to talk to board members, trying to explain, trying to fix the unfixable. My phone started buzzing with texts. Friends I hadn't heard from in years asking if I was okay. Former colleagues sending messages of support. Even my old principal from the school where I used to teach sent a message. Proud of you for standing up for yourself. Thomas called for a car. How do you feel? Free, I said. For the first time in 7 years, I feel completely free. Me too. I've been carrying around what Rachel did for so long. Tonight I finally put it down. The car arrived and we drove away, leaving the disaster behind us. Simone sat in the front, scrolling through social media. You're trending on Twitter, she said. The videos are everywhere. People are calling you a hero. I'm not a hero. I just told the truth. Sometimes that's the same thing. We went back to my apartment. Ordered pizza. Watched the videos play on loop across different news channels. It was surreal seeing myself on TV, watching the confrontation unfold again from different angles. Bradley's company stock is dropping, Simone said, checking her phone. Down 20% in after-hours trading. Good. Maybe next time he'll think twice before lying to everyone. My phone rang. Patricia. The police want to talk to you tomorrow about Rachel's fraud case. They're building charges and need your statement. I'll be there. Also, 3 different news outlets have offered 6 figures for an exclusive interview. I told them you weren't interested, but I wanted you to know. The NDA covers that anyway. True. But even without it, you don't owe anyone your story. You already told the people who mattered. She was right. I'd said what I needed to say at the gala. Everything else was just noise. We stayed up late, replaying the evening, processing everything that had happened. Thomas kept shaking his head in disbelief. I've imagined confronting Rachel for 3 years, he said. I had speeches prepared, things I wanted to say. But when the moment came, all I felt was relief. Relief that it was over. That I could finally move on. Same, I said. I thought I'd feel more vindictive or angry. But mostly I just feel done. Like I closed a book I should have closed a long time ago. Simone raised her glass of wine. To closure. And to new beginnings. To telling the truth, Thomas added. To being free, I said. We clinked glasses. Outside my apartment window, the city lights sparkled. Somewhere out there, Bradley was dealing with the wreckage of his lies. Rachel was at the police station answering questions. Their perfect world had shattered. And I was here, in my own space, with real friends, planning a future that belonged only to me. It was the best night I'd had in years. The next morning, I woke up to my phone exploding with notifications. The gala video had gone viral overnight. News outlets were calling it the scandal of the year. Talk shows were discussing it. Relationship experts were using it as an example of how to stand up for yourself. My face was everywhere. I turned off my phone and made coffee. Patricia had warned me this would happen. The settlement included the NDA, which meant I couldn't do interviews or discuss details publicly. But everyone else could talk about me all they wanted. It was strange being a public figure when I'd spent 7 years trying to be invisible. Detective Chin called at 9. Can you come to the station this morning? We have some questions about Rachel Miller's financial activities. I drove downtown and spent 3 hours answering questions. They wanted to know everything. When I discovered Rachel was married, what evidence I'd found, how Bradley had been funding her lifestyle. We're building a case for wire fraud and identity theft, Detective Chin said. Rachel Miller, or whoever she really is, has been running cons for years. Your husband isn't her first target. What do you mean? We found 2 other men she was involved with before Thomas Griffin. Same pattern. She marries them, drains their accounts, disappears. She's been using different names, different stories. Thomas is just the only one who never stopped looking for her. My stomach turned. Bradley thought he was special, that Rachel loved him. But he was just another mark in a long con. Does Bradley know? We'll be questioning him this afternoon. His company is already under investigation for the financial irregularities your forensic accountant found. He's looking at possible fraud charges himself for covering up Rachel's theft. I'd wanted Bradley to face consequences, but I hadn't expected it to go this far. Then again, he'd made his choices. He'd covered for Rachel, lied to investors, misused company funds. Whatever happened now was his own fault. Thomas met me for lunch after my police interview. He'd been questioned too, giving detailed testimony about what Rachel had done to him. They think she's stolen over $500,000 total from various victims, he said. They're tracking down her other husbands now. How many others are there? At least 3 they've found so far. Maybe more. She's been doing this for over a decade. Bradley had no idea. None of them did. That's her skill. She makes you feel special, like you're the only one who understands her. Then she takes everything and disappears. But she didn't disappear from Bradley. Because she found a bigger score. Your husband is worth millions. Why run when she could stay and keep taking? It made sense in a twisted way. Rachel hadn't loved Bradley any more than she'd loved Thomas or the others. She'd seen an opportunity and taken it. Do you feel vindicated? I asked Thomas. I feel relieved. For 3 years I thought I'd failed her somehow. That she'd left because I wasn't enough. Now I know it was never about me. I was just a stepping stone in her plan. Same with Bradley. He thinks he's special, but he's just another victim. Difference is, he helped her do it. He covered for her crimes. He lied to his company and his investors. He's not innocent in this. That was true. Bradley had made choices. He'd prioritized Rachel over everything else, including his own company and his marriage. Whatever consequences came now, he'd earned them. My phone rang. Simone. Turn on channel 7, she said. Bradley's holding a press conference. I found a TV in the restaurant. Sure enough, there was Bradley in front of a podium, looking exhausted. His expensive suit was wrinkled. He hadn't shaved. His usually perfect hair was a mess. I want to address the events of last night, he said into a cluster of microphones. I made serious errors in judgment. I allowed my personal relationship with Rachel Miller to cloud my professional responsibilities. I take full responsibility for my actions. Is it true she stole from your company? A reporter shouted. That's under investigation. I can't comment on ongoing legal matters. What about your wife? Do you regret how you treated her? Bradley paused. For a moment he looked genuinely sad. Naomi deserved better than what I gave her. She's an incredible woman and I failed her. I hope she can find happiness moving forward. It was the closest thing to an apology I'd ever gotten from him. Too little, too late, but at least he'd said it publicly. Are you stepping down as CEO? Another reporter asked. The board will make that decision. I'm prepared to accept whatever they decide. The press conference continued, but I turned off the TV. I didn't need to hear more. Bradley was finally facing reality. His perfect image was destroyed. His company was in chaos. His relationship with Rachel was exposed as the fraud it always was. He'd lost everything. I should have felt happy about that. Instead, I just felt tired. Revenge didn't feel as satisfying as I'd thought it would. You okay? Thomas asked. I think so. It's just weird seeing him like that. So broken. He broke you first. This is just karma catching up. I know. But I also know that hurting him doesn't actually fix what he did to me. It just means we're both damaged now. So what will fix it? Time. And building something new. Something that's actually mine. We finished lunch and walked through the city. It was a beautiful day, cold but sunny. People passed by on the sidewalk, caught up in their own lives. A month ago I'd been one of them. Anonymous. Invisible. Now I was the woman from the viral video, recognized by strangers. Excuse me, a young woman stopped us. Are you Naomi Wallace? Yes. I just wanted to say thank you. My boyfriend was cheating on me and I'd been making excuses for him. Watching you stand up for yourself gave me the courage to leave him. So thank you. She walked away before I could respond. Thomas smiled. See? You're inspiring people. I'm a cautionary tale about trusting the wrong person. You're a success story about finding your strength. There's a difference. Maybe he was right. Maybe my story wasn't about Bradley at all. Maybe it was about me figuring out who I was when no one else was defining me. Patricia called that afternoon. The divorce is being fast-tracked. The judge wants to finalize everything quickly given the public nature of the case. You'll be officially divorced by the end of the week. That fast. Bradley's lawyers are pushing for it. He wants this over with. Honestly, so do I. Let's close this chapter and let you move on. What about the criminal investigations? Those will take months, maybe years. But they don't involve you. You gave your statement to the police, provided your evidence. The rest is up to them and Bradley's lawyers. Relief flooded through me. I was almost done. Almost free. That evening, I met with the principal who'd offered me the teaching job. We finalized my contract for the spring semester. I'd be teaching second grade just like I had before I'd married Bradley. I'm excited to have you, Barbara said. The kids are going to love you. I hope so. It's been a long time since I taught. You'll be fine. Teaching is like riding a bike. It comes back to you. Walking out of that school, I felt lighter than I had in years. I had a job. An identity that wasn't connected to Bradley. A purpose that was mine. Simone threw a small party at my apartment that night. Just her, Jerome, Thomas, and a few other close friends. We ordered takeout and drank wine and celebrated endings and beginnings. To the newly single and employed Naomi, Simone toasted. To freedom, Jerome added. To new chapters, Thomas said, looking at me with a smile that made my stomach flip. We clinked glasses and ate and laughed. It felt like a real family. The kind I'd thought I had with Bradley but never actually did. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Bradley. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. You deserved better. I hope you find happiness. I stared at the text for a long moment. Part of me wanted to respond, to tell him exactly what I thought about his apology. But what was the point? He knew what he'd done. Yelling at him wouldn't change anything. I deleted the text and put my phone away. Everything okay? Thomas asked. Everything's perfect. And for the first time in a long time, I actually meant it. 6 months later, spring had arrived in full force. My classroom was full of 7-year-olds who made me laugh every day. Teaching felt right in a way nothing else had. I'd found my purpose again, the one I'd lost when I'd tried to become someone I wasn't. The divorce was finalized. Bradley and I hadn't spoken since the gala. His company had survived, barely. He'd been forced to step down as CEO and now worked as a consultant. Rachel was in jail awaiting trial on multiple fraud charges. Detective Chen had found 5 different men she'd conned over the years. Bradley was lucky he'd only lost money and his reputation. I'd taken my settlement and bought a small house with a garden. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. Every room reflected my choices, my style, my life. I'd even adopted a dog, a rescue named Charlie, who greeted me every day like I was the best thing that ever happened to him. Thomas and I had stayed in touch. What started as allies in revenge had slowly become something more. He visited every few weeks and I drove to Portland when I could. We took things slowly, both of us wary after what we'd been through. But there was something there. Something real and honest and worth exploring. He arrived on a Saturday morning in April, surprising me at my house. Charlie went crazy with excitement, jumping all over him. I have news, Thomas said after we'd settled in with coffee. Good news or bad news? Good news. My firm got a major contract. A whole development project downtown. It's the biggest thing I've ever done. Thomas, that's amazing. There's more. The project is here. Not Portland. I'd need to relocate for at least a year, maybe permanently. My heart did a little flip. Here? To this city? If I take the job. I wanted to talk to you first, see if that would be weird. Weird how? We've been doing this long-distance thing. Testing the waters. If I move here, it changes things. Makes it more real. I looked at him, really looked at him. Thomas was nothing like Bradley. He didn't need me to make him look good or play a role. He saw me, the real me, and liked what he saw. He made me laugh. He challenged me. He treated me like an equal partner. I think I'd like it to be more real, I said. His face broke into a huge smile. Yeah. Take the job. Move here. Let's see where this goes. He pulled me into a kiss. Charlie barked excitedly, thinking it was a game. Later, we walked through the neighborhood with Charlie. Kids played in yards. Couples walked hand in hand. Life continued, normal and boring and beautiful. Do you ever think about the gala? Thomas asked. Sometimes. It feels like it happened to someone else. Like a story I heard, not something I lived through. Do you regret any of it? No. I regret staying with Bradley as long as I did. I regret not seeing the truth sooner. But standing up for myself? Telling the truth? No regrets there. I spent 3 years looking for Rachel, trying to understand why she left. Now I'm glad she did. If she hadn't, I never would have met you. That's a twisted silver lining. The best things come from the worst situations sometimes. We walked past my old house, the one I'd shared with Bradley. New owners had moved in last month. They'd painted the front door blue and planted flowers. It looked warm and lived in now, not like the cold showplace it had been. Do you miss it? Thomas asked. Not even a little bit. That house was never mine. This whole life I'm building now, that's mine. My phone rang. Simone. Turn on the news, she said. Rachel's trial verdict just came in. We hurried back to my house and turned on the TV. Sure enough, there was footage of Rachel being led out of the courthouse in handcuffs. Rachel Miller has been found guilty on 8 counts of fraud, the reporter said. She's facing up to 20 years in prison. The judge called her a serial con artist who showed no remorse for her crimes. Thomas sat down heavily. 20 years. Is that what you wanted? I don't know what I wanted. Justice, I guess. But seeing her like that, I just feel empty. She can't hurt anyone else now, and that's good. But it doesn't give me back the 3 years I spent looking for her. No. But it gives you closure. You can stop wondering and worrying and finally move on completely. He nodded slowly. You're right. This is the end of that chapter. Time to write a new one. That night, we cooked dinner together in my kitchen. Nothing fancy, just pasta and salad. But it felt domestic and comfortable. Like we'd been doing this for years instead of months. I've been thinking, Thomas said while we were washing dishes. About what comes next. For both of us. What about it? We've both been through hell. We've rebuilt our lives separately. Now we're trying to build something together. I don't want to rush it, but I also don't want to waste time pretending I don't know what I want. What do you want? This. A life that's honest and real and ours. No games, no lies, no keeping score. Just two people who've been hurt before trying to do better this time. I set down the dish I was washing and turned to face him. I want that too. But I need you to know something first. What? I'm not who I was when I was married to Bradley. I'm not going to give up my career or make myself smaller to fit into your life. I need space to be me. I wouldn't want you any other way. I don't need you to complete me or fix me or be anything other than exactly who you are. Even if that's messy sometimes? Especially if it's messy. Perfect is boring. Real is better. We kissed and Charlie barked from his bed in the corner, probably jealous of the attention. Over the next few weeks, Thomas made arrangements to relocate. He found an apartment near my neighborhood. We agreed to keep our own spaces for now, to move slowly and intentionally. But we also agreed to stop being afraid. We'd both wasted too much time on people who didn't deserve us. We weren't going to waste any more time on fear. I went back to teaching with renewed energy. My students were doing well. Several parents had commented on how much their kids had grown since I'd started. It felt good to make a difference again, to matter in ways that weren't about being someone's wife. One afternoon, a new student transferred into my class. Her name was Mia, and she was shy and scared on her first day. Her mom explained that they'd just left an abusive situation and were starting over. She needs someone who understands that starting over is hard, her mom said. But possible. I looked at Mia, saw the fear and uncertainty in her eyes, and saw myself from 6 months ago. She's in the right place, I told her mom. We're going to take great care of her. And we did. Mia slowly came out of her shell. By the end of the semester, she was laughing and playing with the other kids. Her mom thanked me with tears in her eyes. You gave her hope, she said. You showed her that women can be strong and start over. She showed me that too, I said. Summer arrived. Thomas and I took a road trip to the coast, just the two of us and Charlie. We walked on beaches and ate at small restaurants and talked about everything and nothing. I love you, Thomas said one night as we watched the sunset. It was the first time either of us had said it. The words hung in the air, real and true and terrifying. I love you too, I said. It felt different than it had with Bradley. Less desperate. More solid. Like we were building something on a foundation of truth instead of fantasy. What do you want for our future? He asked. I want honest. I want real. I want a partnership where we both get to be ourselves. Kids. Maybe. Someday. When we're ready. Marriage? Someday. When it means something real and not just a legal contract or a status symbol. So we're doing this? For real? We're doing this. We kissed as the sun dipped below the horizon. Charlie chased seagulls along the beach. In that moment, everything felt right. I thought about Bradley sometimes. Wondered if he'd learned anything from what happened. Wondered if he was happy or just pretending to be. But mostly, I didn't think about him at all. That chapter of my life was over. I'd closed the book and put it on a shelf. It had shaped me, taught me important lessons about who I wanted to be and who I didn't. But it didn't define me anymore. I was Naomi. Teacher. Dog owner. Girlfriend to a good man who treated me like an equal. Friend to people who actually cared about me. Woman who'd been through hell and came out stronger. Not Bradley's wife. Not a victim. Not damaged goods. Just me. And that was enough. 1 year after the gala, Thomas and I hosted a dinner party at my house. Simone and Jerome came, along with some teacher friends and Thomas's business partners. We grilled in the backyard and laughed and told stories. Remember this time last year? Simone said. You were just starting to piece your life back together. Feels like a lifetime ago. You've come so far. We all have. Thomas put his arm around me. Here's to new beginnings. And to the courage it takes to start over. To revenge done right, Jerome added with a grin. To truth, I said. And to building something real. We raised our glasses under the stars. Somewhere across town, Bradley was living whatever life he'd built from the ashes. Rachel was in prison paying for her crimes. My old life was completely gone. And I'd never been happier. Because sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing. Sometimes losing everything means you get to rebuild exactly the life you want. Sometimes the person who breaks your heart is just clearing space for the person who'll actually love you right. I looked at Thomas, at my friends, at my little house with its garden and its rescue dog. This was my life now. Not perfect. Not dramatic. Just real and honest and mine. And it was more than enough. It was everything.